Ladies and gentlemen, now today we got a bit of a pleasant surprise. So yesterday evening, if you follow Marvel Contest of Champions Trucos, you might have seen this video on YouTube or Facebook revealing some of the stuff that's going to be coming in the August 2019 update. And essentially, it's going to be a really big X-Men month. So we got Sinister Labs coming, which are probably going to be quite similar to like MODOK's Labs or Occult Labs, something, along the lines of that. There's going to be special events, additional stuff, and two brand new champions. We've got Sunspot and also Warlock. Now, I don't know too much about either one of the champions. However, I do recognize this dude from some of the X-Men cartoons, kind of back in the day from when I was a kid. So if you know any fun facts about kind of Warlock or Sunspot or something really cool, man, let me know in the comments section below. However, as a very nice additional surprise this morning, Otriux and MCOC Journal hit me up and they were like, dude, we've data mined the full abilities for both Warlock and also Sunspot. Do you want to do a breakdown? And I was like, hell yeah, I want to do a breakdown on both of the champions. So that's what we're doing today, ladies and gentlemen. Starting off with Warlock, who seems remarkably interesting. This dude is a tech champion. He has a lot of utility on him, and he seems like he's going to be a really good counter to both Havok and also Mr. Sinister. So yeah, let's have a bit of a chat about his abilities, but before we start, again, I want to give a massive shout out to both Otriux and the MCOC Journal. They've been doing so much work recently, so a link to their social media, YouTube channels, Facebook, Twitter will be in the description and also the comment section as well. So, if you appreciate videos like this and early sneak peeks, go and give them some love because they work very, very hard to kind of bring all this information together. So yeah, massive love to those lads, but let's start breaking down his abilities. So the first thing is Warlock has triple immunities. Being a robot, he's immune to bleed and also poison, but they've also added Iceman immunity on top, so he's immune to any cold snap or frostbite damage there, which is very nice. Also, his durable Technarch form grants Warlock a permanent armor up buff, increasing armor rating by 700, and if this buff does get removed for any reason, like armor break or purge or dispel or anything like that, it's going to refresh itself after 10 seconds. So that means that at his base, he's going to be a Havok counter, man. That is going to be a really, really good piece of utility to have. And also, while this buff is active, opponents' special attacks cannot be critical. So that's a little bit of an interesting one as well. I don't know if that's going to have kind of much use when playing the champion. Makes him a little bit more annoying on Alliance War defense, maybe on like power shield nodes as well. He's going to be a bit of a pain in the ass, but there are ways, just armor break him and you can still gain crits on that one, so it might not be the worst in the world there. And then we have kind of his techno organic transmode virus. So whenever he makes contact with the opponent, they gain a charge of techno organic transmode virus, and this virus is not affected by ability accuracy, and once the opponent has 20 charges, they are removed and replaced with one infection passive that lasts for 20 seconds, and the duration is decreased by 6 seconds for each unique buff on the opponent when it activates. So essentially this means if you have a cosmic champion like, let's say, Angela, Venom, maybe Venom the Duck as well, maybe Carnage, champions with a lot of different buffs that you can activate, then you're going to be, I assume, pretty much immune to this virus there. So it's got some interesting counters. However, this virus does have a few different effects that it kind of applies to the opponent. So it will heal block the opponent first and foremost, and also if the Salve Mastery is active, the Mastery is removed. So yeah, I assume that just counts as heal block as well. A little bit confused by the wording on that one. And then the opponent has minus 30% offensive ability accuracy reduction as well. Whenever the opponent would gain health while infected, they also drain 5% of their current power over 0.5 seconds. So I think one matchup that last line is going to be really useful for is the Mr. Sinister matchup, because constantly when you're hitting into him, he's going to like be healing off crits and stuff, so that's going to drain a little bit of his power, but it is 5% of current power. So I don't know how useful that's going to be. Maybe in certain scenarios where you have like a regeneration champion on an all or nothing node, that might be a little bit more useful. Seems like a nice little bit of passive power drain in the right scenario. So yeah, especially in the Havok Havok matchup as well. If there's like a healing note, might be quite good and useful there. However, also when blocking, when you're playing Warlock, if the block was a well-timed block, so if you parry the opponent gains free virus charges. So this grants you a way when playing the champion to maybe stack them up fairly quickly there, because if you like parry, and I don't know what his combo is going to look like, because recently we've had champions with like 6-7 combos, so there might be more hits to his attacks as well, but let's assume it's a standard 5 combo there. You know, you parry, you go in for a 5 combo, you get like 8 virus charges, so it's going to take like 3 combos to gain 1 infection on the opponent, so that seems like it could be quite well, and if you're playing fairly aggressively, you might be able to stack 2 of them up. So yeah, might be able to get some quite nice offensive ability accuracy reduction on the opponent as well. However, an interesting second point to this one, if the hit was a non-contact basic attack, so we're talking champions, I assume like Havok, Domino, maybe Ebony Moore, the opponent instantly drains 10% of their current power. So that's going to be absolutely amazing for Havok matchups, I would assume, because as soon as you go for a parry on a medium, then it's going to immediately remove all of Havok's charges as well that are on him. So yeah, he has a lot of, you know, 2 core ways to deal with Havok there. Seems like pretty much the ultimate Havok counter in the way that he's been set up in terms of his base abilities, which is really, really nice. However, his heavy attacks, I'm a bit interested to see how this one does function, because apparently his heavy attacks are going to lacerate the opponent, inflicting bleed damage. I would assume this is roughly equivalent to either 80 to 100% of his base attack as bleed damage over 5 seconds. So this is going to have, being a fairly short bleed, really good synergy with the Deep Wounds Mastery to get like plus 50% additional damage there. And if that can apply off multiple hits on the heavy attack, that could be some crazy bleed damage. And if you're doing like parry, maybe a medium attack heavy, that could be a good way to maybe stack a lot of bleeds, maybe a little bit of infection as well, and do some pretty cool stuff there. So I'm interested to see how the heavy attack you know, does work and function with this champion, because I think there's some really good potential there. And then we have the special attacks of Warlock. So the first one, the special one, is Mega Buster. So he self-utilizes limbs to push the opponent back, creation of Energy Blaster for intense disharmony result. So the last hit shocks the opponent, dealing energy damage over 10 seconds. And this is, I think, a relatively big shock, equal to about 150% of what I assume is going to be his base attack there. And if they are infected, this also triggers when the attack is activated, but lasts half as long. So I think there is maybe a little bit of a penalty when it comes to stuff like the special attacks if the opponent is actually infected, because it looks like it's going to deal about half damage there. However, there are additional effects if the opponent is infected, and the special one, the first hit removes all infection passives to passively drain 25% of the opponent's max power over 5.5 seconds for each infection removed. And I think passive power drains can sometimes be maybe a little bit more valuable, just because it's constantly siphoning power. So you've got like 5.5 seconds where the opponent like can't throw off a special 3. So yeah, that might be like fairly useful there, like 25% power drain over 5.5 seconds off a special one seems fairly interesting. Again, it being overtime and immediate, it does have its pros, does have its cons, but it's a very nice piece of utility to have. And then finally the special 2. So the final hit places 2 armor break debuffs on the opponent, each reducing armor rating by 2,100 for 10 seconds. So combined, that's quite a heavy armor reduction, and that's going to kind of beef up your damage a fair bit, and also help counter certain champions like Mysterio and also Killmonger, but it's not really like long enough by the look of it to you know, be a super like core armor break champion. However, you know, it doesn't seem too bad there. However, if the opponent is infected, the debuffs also trigger when the attack is activated, but last half as long. So I assume you've only got 5-second duration, which is not very much time at all. However, if you do have an infection on the opponent, the last hit will refresh 1 infection there. So that seems pretty cool. And then finally, we got the special 3, which is Dine and Smash. So it's going to inflict a passive power burn on the the opponent, draining 100% of their current power over 5.5 seconds and dealing damage proportionate to the amount lost. So yeah, that could be a pretty nice power burn there. And also you regenerate health. I assume this is somewhere between 5 to 7% of his base health for each infection the opponent has. So yeah, you got a bit of power, a very, very effective power burn there. Draining, like, you know, full power over 5.5 seconds. It kind of has its disadvantages. It would be better maybe if it was immediate, just because if you, like, you know, fire off the special 3, then the opponent can still use stuff like a special 2 and a special 1 in this duration, while they're, you know, draining all of their max power there. So I don't know, man, there may be some cons to having a 5.5 second power drain over time, but it's certainly not the worst. And the regen is okay. It doesn't seem like anything crazy, but if you can get you know, 2 to 3 stacks of infection fairly reliably, it might be a little bit interesting. And also the signature ability of Warlock is when the opponent's power is drained or burnt, degenerate the opponent, dealing 862.89 direct damage over 8 seconds. So yeah, that could be quite useful in certain matchups and just adds a bit more damage onto the special 1, special 3, and maybe also the infection when the opponent is potentially regenerating as well. So signature ability looks alright, but it looks like a very nice to have for this champion's damage output, because this is probably approximately about 35 to 40% of Warlock's base attack there. So nothing, you know, super game-changing, but it looks quite nice to have, and maybe a little bit more annoying on stuff like Alliance War defense. Then we move on to the champion synergies for Warlock, and these seem a little bit interesting. So the first one we have is with Magic and Sunspot. So Warlock special attacks generate minus 70% less power in opponents. Magic attack rating is increased by 50% while in limbo. I think that one's going to be pretty mega for a lot of Magic players, man, because if you're playing Magic very aggressively in certain matchups, there is a lot of time where you are in limbo, so that one seems really, really good. And also Sunspot Incinerates have 25% increased duration. There's also another synergy with Ultron Classic, Ultron Vision, and also Vision Age of Ultron as well, called Robot Uprising. So whenever any teammate would receive a debuff they are immune to, they gain a Fury buff, increasing attack by 60% for 6 seconds. So on certain nodes like Biohazard against like Abomination Morningstar, this might be crazy for Warlock and a lot of these champions, man. This might be a really, really good synergy. So yeah, I'm interested to see how this one is going to function, because this seems very promising for a lot of these champions. Again, a 60% attack bonus is certainly nothing to shrug off there. It's a lot of additional damage, so that could be very good with a lot of these champions, and maybe bringing them back into some areas of relevance in certain matchups. But Warlock, he does look better than the majority of these characters, aside from maybe Vision has more stable power control, I would say. And then we've got going viral with Cable. So whenever the opponent would gain 1 or more virus charges, 50% chance for them to gain an additional charge. So yeah, this one seems quite useful. It can allow you to gain and stack the virus charges much more aggressively, allowing him to maybe get 3, potentially 4 viruses on the opponent. So I don't know how this one is going to work and how his combos are going to look like, but that one does have a little bit of potential, and it also increases the ability accuracy of Cable's regeneration by a 10% factor there as well. So that might be okay for Cable, but it's nothing like really game changing for him. And then finally we have one with Domino and both of the Magnetos, where all champions gain plus 12% special attack damage. So yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to Warlock. Overall, I'm getting some very, very strong vibes from this champion. I mean, he's got great base utility. We've got triple immunities there. We've also got an armor up buff. We've got a bit of power drain, heal block, ability accuracy reduction. There's a lot of very interesting and quirky stuff that this champion can do. So my predictions, kind of looking at these early abilities if these do come to the live server. He kind of looks like he's probably going to be around the high demigod tier in terms of champion performance. Maybe a little bit of god tier potential if you can stack up the bleeds, and if the heavy attack has a lot of hits, then maybe there's some crazy god tier potential damage output in certain matchups. But yeah, I don't know, man. We're gonna have to see when it comes to Warlock. Overall, he looks like he's going to be a really, really good addition to the game. But again, these are early data mined abilities, so some of the stuff is subject to change. This champion could be buffed even more by the time this champion is released. But overall, looks really good, man. Looks really, really good. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think of Warlock in the comments section below. And if you did enjoy today's breakdown video, please do smash that like button. That'd be greatly appreciated. Aside from that, thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.